October 3, 2025, 0917 Caribbean Sea 25 miles off Venezuela. The radar scope lights up again. A fast contact. Small return. No AIS. Making better than 38 knots and weaving like it owns the ocean. On board the US Navy destroyer, every eye turns to the Combat Information Center. The operator calls it out. Voice clipped. No hesitation. Bogey detected. CPA under 1 nautical mile. Intercept time, 7 minutes. This isn't a fishing boat. Fishing boats don't sprint at highway speed or zigzag to throw off tracking. They don't cut transponders. To the crew, what looks like a go-fast to the untrained eye is a missile without a warhead. Fiberglass hull, triple outboards, maybe 20 meters long, fast enough to close distance, reckless enough to cause a collision. First protocol, hail the vessel. English first, then Spanish. Clear, professional, repeated 3 times over an open channel. Silence. The smuggler holds course. Bearing stays constant. The intercept numbers shrink. At this speed, one wrong maneuver means steel against fiberglass, and steel always wins. But the Navy knows better than to trust luck. Rules of engagement kick in. Log every second. Record every call. Broadcast warnings show presence. What began as a routine interdiction is shifting into something darker. This isn't just a smuggler outrunning the law. This is a confrontation. One reckless move from international headlines. The contact's track dances across radar. Bursts of acceleration, sudden lulls. Classic smuggler tactics. Make yourself unpredictable. Force the pursuer to recalculate. Inside CIC, numbers roll across screens. Bearing steady. CPA now 6 cables. Speed holding at 38 knots. 6 cables, just over half a nautical mile. That's no buffer. The destroyer is in international waters, 25 miles offshore. Every move is logged. Every call recorded. Legal ammunition for when the story reaches the press. Bridge to bridge goes out again, sharper this time. Unidentified Venezuelan vessel, you are operating dangerously. Acknowledge immediately. No answer. The Spanish language transmission follows with equal force. Nothing but the hiss of static. Silence at sea is not confusion. It's defiance. They shift to presence. Deck crew man visible stations. The 5-inch Mark 45 slews slightly to starboard. No firing solution but a wake. A Archie B sits primed on its davits. A boarding team straps in and waits. The smuggler responds by doing the worst thing it could. It cuts across the destroyer's projected bow. At that speed, the CPA falls dangerously low. CPA 2 cables and closing, CIC calls. 2 cables about 400 yards. Knife fight range. The captain holds course. If the US ship swerves, it hands Caracas the story of an American destroyer dodging a Venezuelan vessel. That's not happening. Instead, the destroyer escalates. Warning signals. A long, unmistakable blast of the ship's horn thunders across the water. Deck lights flash. Still, the smuggler refuses to break off. To a civilian, it looks like a reckless game of cat and mouse. To the watch officers, it's the opening act of a collision scenario. One misstep and fiberglass shatters on steel. The clock ticks. CPA drops under 200 yards. The smuggler pushes the throttle. Triple outboards scream and the wake explodes into white foam. Speed jumps past 40 knots. They're running and tempting fate. The Seahawk answers the order. Rotor blades bite the Caribbean air, spraying the stern. The helicopter climbs to 200 feet. Its flare swings to the smuggler. Infrared paints hot engines, frantic crew movement, fuel sloshing under deck. Every frame is time-stamped and uplinked. A warning flare arcs across the sky, magnesium bright and unmissable. Stop, right now. Still they press on. The Seahawk pulses a green laser across the cockpit twice. Non-lethal, visible, designed to blind sensors and force attention. It's not aggression, it's the final warning. The destroyer deploys the RHIB. Coxswain rides hard, intercept angle perfect. Now it's a 3-dimensional trap. Destroyer looming with steel mass. Helicopter circling overhead. RHIB knifing across the waves. The smuggler veers, digs into a sharp turn. At these speeds, the hull bites into a swell and almost flips. For a heartbeat, control is lost, then regained, and they swing wide to try and break away to port. The RHIB answers with engine scream and bow rise, crossing the wake to block the gap. Overhead, the Seahawk sensor operator reports, contact accelerating, fuel burn extreme. They can't hold this pace long. It's chess at 40 knots. Every maneuver tighter, each margin smaller. Inside the destroyer, the watch officer murmurs what everyone's thinking. One wrong move. This isn't interdiction anymore. It's a potential collision. The smuggler weaves, darts left then right, but the Navy boxes them in. Every course change only shrinks the escape. Then the moment comes. The smuggler runs dangerously close to the RHIB, spray-stinging helmets, fiberglass nearly clipping rubber tubes. A sailor yells. The coxswain holds steady, professional, unflinching. The script hangs on a blade's edge. Trained discipline versus desperate daring. Every warning logged, every sensor frame recorded, every command preserved. The destroyer answers provocation with measured escalation. Presence, warning, demonstration. So that if the headlines come, the record will speak for itself. 25 miles off Venezuela's coast, the helicopter banks low, rotor wash cutting through the haze. The flare still burns overhead, a streak of magnesium fire hanging against the morning sky. Below, the destroyer holds her course, steady, unshaken, implacable. The message is unmistakable. You can run all you want. We own this ocean. For the smugglers, the clock is bleeding out. Time, speed, and fuel are running dry. What began as a reckless chase is about to cross into the threshold of lethal force. Inside the Combat Information Center, the voice comes flat and cold over the net. Non-compliant vessel. Hostile intent presumed. ROE escalation authorized. This isn't theater anymore, sailor. This is the real thing. The Venezuelan go-fast has ignored every hail, every warning flare, every non-lethal deterrent. Worse, it's maneuvering dangerously close to US assets. One near miss already threatened to tear through an RHIB. The next could mean American casualties. Under the US rules of engagement, that flips a switch. The order transmits clean, engage to disable. The Seahawk banks sharply, its camera locked on the smuggler's stern. Every frame is logged and uplinked. Then, from the destroyer's deck, a deep metallic thud echoes across the water. The launch of precision fire. Not a bluff, not a warning, a real kinetic strike. The round slams into the go-fast's engines. A geyser of white spray erupts, fiberglass splinters, smoke blooms over the wake. At 40 knots, that kind of impact isn't survivable. Within seconds, the vessel lies dead in the water. 4 smugglers on board, killed instantly. No movement, no survivors. The destroyer doesn't celebrate. No cheers, no bravado, just silence and the sound of recording systems humming. For the Navy, this isn't about drama, it's about evidence. Within hours, Reuters and the Associated Press break the story. A Venezuelan smuggling craft destroyed in international waters by a US destroyer. Washington confirms the event, a lawful counter-narcotics interdiction, fully compliant with maritime law. In Washington's eyes, October 3rd wasn't an accident. It was enforcement, a display of order, precision, and consequence on the open sea. But in Caracas, it was something else entirely. To them, it was war, declared or not. And that war was just beginning. October 3rd didn't stand alone. To understand why 4 smugglers died in the Caribbean, you have to rewind the chain of events that led here. Just weeks earlier, September 12, 2025, a US Navy patrol aircraft tracked a flotilla of Venezuelan go-fasts south of Puerto Rico. When US interdiction teams moved in, the smugglers opened fire. The response was swift and surgical. A precision strike followed, leaving 11 dead. Washington called it a counter-narcotics operation. Caracas called it murder. That same month, Venezuelan Su-30 flanker fighter jets buzzed dangerously low over a US destroyer operating in the Caribbean. Not a harmless flyby, not a training run. Combat-loaded aircraft, screaming past within 500 feet of the mast. To the Navy, it wasn't harassment, it was a test. By late September, US satellites confirmed a shift that no one could deny. Venezuelan troop concentrations along the northern coastline, hardened bunkers under construction, patrol craft staging near shallow ports, coastal radar units lighting up airspace that had been dark for months. Caracas wasn't just reacting, it was preparing. Then came October. Intelligence circles began to hum with another development. F-35 stealth fighters were detected operating near Venezuelan airspace. Officially, Washington said nothing, but the timing spoke volumes. The US wanted eyes and options if the crisis tipped over the edge. On October 1st, President Trump delivered a statement that electrified the narrative. He called the fight against narcotics cartels an armed conflict. Not crime, not law enforcement, war. That single phrase shifted the entire legal footing of every American operation in the Caribbean. It gave the Navy and Allied forces broader latitude than ever before. From that moment, the doctrine split became clear. Washington framed these missions as hybrid operations, law enforcement actions executed with military precision, interdiction, seizure, and, when necessary, destruction. Caracas, on the other hand, painted each engagement as an assault on its sovereignty. To them, it wasn't a drug war, it was national defense. And when two narratives collide at sea, the truth isn't measured by who fires first. It's decided by who convinces the world afterward. Look closer, and October 3rd fits a pattern. Venezuelan smuggling craft aren't random freelancers. Many are tied to state-backed logistics networks. US intelligence has tracked the money trails, the fuel supplies, even the appearance of military-grade navigation systems aboard so-called civilian boats. So when a US destroyer disables a go-fast, Washington isn't just stopping drugs, it's cutting into the infrastructure of a shadow economy that bankrolls Caracas itself. But that strategy carries a cost. Each destroyed vessel, each dead crew hardens Venezuela's resolve. Each lawful enforcement action becomes propaganda fuel for a rival government. Every Navy success becomes another Caracas accusation of American aggression. The line between cartel and state grows thinner by the day, and in the Caribbean, blurred lines can sink ships. By the time the sun dips below the horizon on October 3rd, the ocean looks calm again. The clash is over. What remains isn't just debris, it's a ripple spreading across hemispheres. The Venezuelan smuggling craft lies broken, its crew gone. The US destroyer sails on, undamaged, unflinching, its engines humming against the dark water. Another entry in the endless log of maritime enforcement. But the political shockwaves travel faster than sound. Caracas unleashes a storm of accusations, denouncing Washington for imperial aggression. State media broadcasts charred wreckage, framing it as the murder of innocents in international waters. Washington fires back with precision, time-stamped footage, radio transcripts, and the unbroken chain of compliance. Every call unanswered, every warning ignored, every non-lethal measure exhausted. The kinetic strike wasn't rash, it was inevitable. Yet this shadow war isn't really about who's right. It's about who can endure the pressure longest, and that pressure is rising. Venezuelan coastal defenses are on high alert. US destroyers tighten their patrol routes. Surveillance aircraft prowl the skies, their contrails drawing invisible borders across the Caribbean. October 3rd wasn't the end of anything. It was another round in a contest where patience, posture, and perception matter more than missiles or armor. Because at sea, victory isn't always measured by the ships you sink. Sometimes it's measured by the message you send. And the message on October 3rd, 2025 was crystal clear. Push too close to an American destroyer, and the outcome is not in doubt. Not for smugglers, not for Caracas, not for anyone. So, what do you think? Should the US Navy double down on striking Venezuelan smuggling boats? Or does every clash risk dragging Washington into a wider war no one's ready for? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate isn't just tactical, it's global. And hey, thanks for riding with us through this breakdown of real-world naval encounters. If you got something out of it, hit like and subscribe. It helps us bring more frontline maritime stories straight to your feed. Want to go deeper? Join the fleet. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and you'll help us surface even more stories from the world's oceans. Just hit join on our channel page and come aboard, because out here, hesitation sinks faster than ships. I'll see you in the next one.